Hello, welcome at 5 Minutes with Errol Musk. I'm Anneke. I asked Errol this afternoon to reflect on liberal and conservative governments.
You mean liberal government versus conservative so-called government? Well, it's actually so-called liberal and so-called conservative.
Okay.
Yeah, well, in reality, a liberal government in which there is a strong opposition, or a conservative government in which there's a strong liberal opposition, in fact, will do exactly the same thing. The reason is that the country is like a vehicle on the road. So it has a way to go, and there's generally only one way to go, or perhaps very few ways to go to get to a destination. And so it doesn't really matter whether the conservative drives the car or he gets out and lets the liberal drive the car. They have to go in the same way. So ultimately, the liberal government may talk about great changes they want to make, and the conservative government people, when they electioneering, might want to talk about the things they want to make sure we never lose, let's say, in our country. When they actually get down to running the country, it doesn't matter. The country has a path that it must follow, and they have to, unfortunately, somewhat forget about their grand ideas to do some extraordinary change, and they more or less wind up being ultimately the same. So they have the same problems to deal with, and so and the only way to deal with it is, a certain way, and so it doesn't really matter. You do have a strange situation. Well, let me first say that governments, if you viewed a government as being made up of 16 parts, let's say 16 parts, or say 16 members, then it's always good to have the ruling government, whether it be conservative or liberal, that wins the election, should have 10 parts, and the opposition should have 6 parts. That's called the golden ratio. And when you have the golden ratio, you have a strong government capable of doing things, and you have a very strong opposition keeping them in line. And that is ideal. So if you have that, be it either on the liberal side or on the conservative side, where the government is made of 10 parts and conservative or liberal, and the opposition is made of 6 parts conservative or liberal, you actually have a very similar government. There's hardly anything different between the two governments, and they may try occasionally to. There may be the occasional argument over something, something silly, a monument or something, but there'll be tiny things, and so the two governments will be almost the same.
So 16-10, but if it
No,
is
it's 10-6.
10-6, but if it is 8-8.
Yes. So if you get 8-8, you have an equal. The two parties are equal and maybe separated by a very tiny margin, which puts the one into government somehow. That's very unstable. Very, very unstable. So you don't have a strong government. You have a weak government and a very, very strong opposition that very often can obtain votes from the Liberal side that stops the government from doing anything. So it's a very unstable
Yeah,
situation.
with a power struggle all the time.
Yes, a very unstable situation. And you don't want that. But it happens. It happens quite a lot. And progress is very seriously hampered in a situation like that. Then, of course, you have the worst situation, the sort of opposite of what you've just been talking about, and that is where the government is made up of say, 14 or 15 parts, the ruling government, and let's say the Liberal government made of 15 parts, and only one part is left for, say, the Conservatives. Well, that's a very unstable situation.
Yeah.
Very, very unstable
Or
situation.
the other way around.
Or the
yeah.
other way around. So if you had a very, very 15-part Conservative government, and only one part of the 16 was Liberal, well, you have a very unstable situation. You're going to have a very, very unhappy population, and it's not what you want. So you really want to try and get to the golden ratio, and if you have a strong government that winds up winning too much, and they are sensible enough to make their executive branch include a few of the other people from the other side to get closer to a golden ratio, then that's a very good, clever government, and then you wind up with stability again.
Okay. Okay, so I wonder this golden ratio, whether it would also apply to relationships between men and women, or in marriages, relationships. What do you think about that, Errol? 10-6 in a relationship, should it be?
Well, yes. I mean, you could say that in a marriage, a typical marriage. I like the idea of marriage. I don't like these new non-marriage situations, but there's a lot of reasons for that as well. But in a man-woman relationship, there are areas in which the man should have 10-part control and the woman should have 6-part control. And there are other areas where the woman should have 10-part control and the man should have 6-part control. So you might say the woman, if she's a mother, should have 10-part control over the children and the father 6-part. And when it comes to their earning capability and the need to generate income for the family and so forth, I would say that's where the man should have the 10-part control and the woman 6-part. But it could be the other way around if the woman had the business. But you do need a ratio like that. If it's an equal situation where they're equal on everything, they'll be butting heads all the time. When it comes to the children, the mother might say they must go to bed now, and the father would say no, they mustn't go to bed now, and or the other way around, and so you'd have very confused children, and so I think you could actually apply the golden ratio to relationships.
Okay, thank you, Errol.